Hi, Analisa Six here with the Sober Curator and the Lady of Leisure to bring you the March 2024 astrology forecast horoscope. I'm sorry, my first video of the day. I'm a little bit jumbled already. Um, Astrology horoscope for the sign of Virgo, Sun and Rising placements. Hi, Virgo. How's it going? It's been a minute since I've been doing the horoscope, so I'm excited to see everybody, even though I can't see anybody, but you're out there. I'm talking to you. Um, I just did a reading. I did 6 videos yesterday. Starting today out, it's gloomy. I woke up really tired. I think I'm having a caffeine dependency right now that is probably not good, but it feels good. Basically, wake up feeling groggy until I have caffeine and then I start to feel great, but I'm still a little bit scattered. I don't know. But I'm excited to jump in and do the Virgo horoscope because you're being impacted a lot right now in a way that is unique for you, like in comparison to all the other signs. So we're in Pisces season. We start out every March in Pisces season, but we don't start out every March with this amount of planets or energies in Pisces. And so Pisces is really dominant right now, archetypally for the collective. Like we're all under the influence of a lot of Piscean energy. And Pisces is the mutable water sign of the zodiac that rules the 12th house. Virgo energy, you are the mutable earth energy of the zodiac and you rule the 6th house. And in the natal chart, you guys are opposite each other. So Pisces is your opposite. So you balance each other out, but you also oppose each other because you do things in very different ways. So you do things in similar ways, but in opposite ways, if that makes sense. You're both on the yin polarity. And so you represent more of what's considered to be the divine feminine energy, the introverted energy, the more of like the mother kind of archetypes that, you know, I have a lot of non-binary friends. And so when I'm talking about this in a gendered way, I feel really mindful with the fact that we're kind of moving out of that energy in a lot of ways as a society. But um, I I am I do identify with a binary for myself, and I do very much still identify with the female archetypes and yin energy to me. It doesn't have to be female, but it's more of that kind of inward, it's the emotional, it's the maternal, it's the physical, what we tend to associate with the mother. But obviously, you don't have to be a woman to have that archetype present within you. So I'm just trying to speak to that because I respect a lot of that. And I'm still growing in that way of understanding it myself because I think being raised in a binary society, sometimes removing that binary and a lot of the language is still hard for me, and hard for me within myself sometimes too. So I'm still working on that, work in progress, still trying to understand it too. But I think that when we think about Virgo and Pisces, we think about the connection to the ethereal realm in Pisces, the spiritual realm. And then we think about with Virgo, the way that we're connected to health and our bodies and how we're of service in those realms when it comes to the earth. The like Pisces is of servitude in the emotional, and Virgo is of servitude in the physical. And they're both kind of wanting to be of service to humanity in that way. And so Virgo's getting pulled into that opposite realm, the servitude into spiritual, emotional. And depending on you, like I know a lot of Virgo dominant people that have a lot of water energy. And so that emotional realm isn't necessarily challenging to navigate for people that have water dominant placements in their chart. But if you're a Virgo that doesn't have a lot of water placements, then this energy could be really it's opposing. It feels like you're kind of being accosted with all this emotional energy when maybe you're a more analytical, practical person and not somebody that's necessarily as delusional as Pisces can be. So the area of the chart that this is hitting for the Virgo horoscope, where all this Pisces energy is hitting, is the area that has to do with relationships, partnerships of all kinds. So romantic partnerships, dating, marriage. It's not the marriage house, it's the 7th house, but if we're married, that partnership, it also can symbolize business partnerships and also best friends. So we start out March with the Sun, Mercury, Neptune, and Saturn all in Pisces. influencing this part of the chart. And so one of the things that happens for you this month in March is that you might feel like there's so much emphasis on everybody else in your life that you share these kinds of connections with. And you might be like very focused on partnership. So if you're single, you might be in a position where you really want to experience partnership. Maybe you're dating, maybe you're really desiring that kind of connection. If you're in a relationship already, you might be desiring more emotional, spiritual connection on a deep level with the person that you're partnered with. Having Mercury in Pisces here, you might really want to be talking, discussing feelings and things that maybe are more under the surface in the relationship. So Virgo, ruling the external and more of the material side, tends to be really concerned with day-to-day operations. So your daily routine and kind of the tasks at hand, and acts of service is a love language for Virgo. And so having all this Piscean energy highlighting relationships, but you being a Virgo archetype, those are things that you might be discussing in a partnership. What are the acts of service that mean something to you? How do you connect in a deeper way, in an emotional way? Those are all themes. And the other thing that happens with Pisces, with Mercury and Pisces in this area, is that communicating our feelings is really important during this time, but it's also possible for us to be more delusional about our feelings, more ungrounded, more emotionally driven, and less methodical. And so I guess kind of like an example would be that, let's say you're dating, let's say you're not married. I mean, this could be even in a marriage, but let's just say that you're dating. And let's say that you've met somebody and you feel on a spiritual level a very strong connection to them, but there's all these red flags and there's all these things that don't quite add up, but you don't want to believe that. You don't want to look at those red flags. You want to feel the feelings that you're having about the maybe chemistry between you. That's a very Mercury and Pisces thing, where we don't really want to look at what's on paper or the facts. We want to feel what we feel. And sometimes what we feel is a projection of something that we want or wish, rather than what it actually is. We can also do that in relationships that we've been in for a long time, where let's say that this is something that I've experienced. Let's say that your relationship was a certain way for a very long time and you're still kind of holding on to that, even though the reality of the relationship isn't really that anymore. And so you kind of keep projecting or waiting for it to kind of get to this other space, and it's not happening, and you don't know why it's not happening, but because it's happened before, you're hanging on to that, and you're hanging on to that feeling or that romanticizing of what it's been before versus where it's going or what it currently is now. That can be some of the delusional kind of stuff that we do to ourselves in a relationship. And so ways that we can work through that over the month that's constructive is you going to therapy, either with a partner that you're working things out with, or with yourself, to kind of decipher like what is actually happening versus what are my projections and what am I feeling right now into this. The other kind of story that's happening during the month of March that is a part of this, kind of journey for Virgo, is that we have the North Node currently in Aries, and the area of the chart that's hitting for Virgo is the area that has to do with marriage, shared assets and resources, sex, death, taxes, loans, debts, all of those themes. It's a lot. The occult, the esoteric side of the occult. And so having the North Node here, that means there's a lot of energy being pulled into that area of your life. Then we also have Chiron, the wounded healer, conjunct that North Node. And so that brings up wounds around those themes. And the journey here, the lesson is, how do we gain more personal confidence and independence around these themes, more autonomy around these themes? And when we're in a relationship, sometimes it's important for us to learn how to have more independence and confidence within that relationship, within those themes, especially if there's shared resources. If we're single and we're on our own, we're supporting ourselves, we could be dealing with money through inheritance or family members or through institutions like banks. And so again, like, it's important that we're working through our relationship to those things and building more confidence and independence and strength in a healthy way with the nodal journey here. The other thing that's happening for Virgo at the beginning of the month is we have Venus and Mars in a conjunction in Aquarius. It's not exact, but they're within an orb of influence of each other and kind of dancing a little bit. And that's actually hitting the part of the chart that Virgo traditionally rules. So the sixth house is the house that Virgo rules, but in the horoscope chart, Aquarius is here. And Pluto just entered Aquarius officially at the beginning of January. And so we have a Pluto transit that's going to be passing through this area of the horoscope for the next 20 years, and influencing your health, your relationship to your health, your relationship to how you're of service in the world, and also your daily routines. And then we have Venus and Mars here at the beginning of the month, kind of amplifying that. So getting your health in order is really important. Your nervous system is really important during this. Also, Mars can lend itself to a little bit of a health flare up, so if you're having a little bit of health issues, like getting those addressed and identified is important with Mars passing through here. You might also feel kind of a sense of urgency with Mars here around your routines, like what about the way you're living day to day could be better or could be altered in some way to promote your health and well-being. Being of service to your community or your work, like whatever your work is that you're doing, being of service in that way, or even philanthropic, it could be something that you feel guided towards in some way over the beginning of March. Once we get into the month more, on March 9th, Mercury is going to be moving into the cardinal fire sign of Aries and entering that area of the chart that has to do with the shared resources, assets, marriage, those types of things. Mercury here, especially in the sign of Aries, is very action oriented, and whatever maybe illusions, delusions that you might have had about how you were feeling in a partnership, Mercury is now moving into Aries and is more kind of focused on linear action and kind of, I don't want to say that it's focused on necessarily what's truthful or what's real, because it's still very emotionally driven and reactive. Fire energy is different than water energy, but it's still very emotional. It can be very like, this is what I want, this is how I want it. And it's very reactive. It's a reactive energy. And so when it starts, if you're negotiating things around money with a partner or with an institution, those negotiations can be really elevated, and you have the risk of being very reactive. You run the risk of being reactive, and you also are potentially subjected to other people's reactions. So this is a time to there's a lot of learning to be done around how we communicate. And it's hard, I think, navigating sometimes, because there's benefits to Mercury in Aries, where if we need to fight and stand up for ourselves in certain situations, we need to be more confrontational and embrace conflict more. Mercury in Aries can be really positive and helpful for that. But if we're in a position where we need to learn how to listen or kind of cool it a little bit, Mercury in Aries can get us into some trouble. Mercury is going to be in Aries until May, because we have Mercury stationing retrograde in Aries on the 1st of the month of April. So there's definitely going to be some floundering in terms of us saying the wrong thing and being reactive at the wrong time. There's just a lot of opportunity for conflict when Mercury is retrograde in Aries. So the stage is getting set in March, and there's a check yourself before you wreck yourself kind of energy with Mars as the ruler of this. March 10th, we also have a new moon at 20 degrees of Pisces. So again, this is opposite of Virgo. So it's pulling you into this area that is not necessarily super authentic to you unless you have a lot of Pisces placements. I know Virgos with a lot of Pisces placements. So if that's true, then, this might be a more comforting energy for you. But new moons are a great time to set intentions. This new moon is happening in the area of relationship for you. So again, whatever the intentions are that you want to manifest into new romantic relationships or partnerships of any kind, this is a positive time for you to do that. So if during this Pisces season, you've gained some clarity, like this is what I want out of a partnership, this is what I don't want, this new moon is here to help you set those intentions. Then a couple days later, we have Venus entering Pisces. So Venus is going to be exalted or she is exalted in Pisces, so she's going to be in that area that she performs very well. And Venus entering Pisces and passing through the relationship area of the Virgo chart is really positive. Venus rules the seventh house, and so when she's passing through the seventh house, she brings harmony, conflict resolution, healing, great time for connections. If you're single and you want to date, this is going to be a time where you're going to really enjoy dating, probably because you're going to have a lot of emotional connections with people. But you do have to be careful because there is that room in Pisces for us to follow the romantic feeling and miss a lot of the red flag behavior. It can be so hard because there can be times where we're really connecting with someone. Like, this is totally different, but I'll just share. I had a job interview yesterday. It's not the same as a romantic dating partnership, but interviewing for a job is kind of like you're dating a job. Like you're going on a date to figure out if this is a fit for you. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how it feels. I mean, I haven't dated in forever, so I would say it's not the same. It does not feel the same way. But there's that like kind of getting to know each other, getting to know somebody. And I had a phone interview and I could tell that like we really liked each other, but then there was kind of a conflict of interest where our belief systems around the work that we do, it was not going to work. Like, and I could tell both of us were bummed because we had like this other connection in a charismatic way where it was like, oh, we could see each other having a lot of fun working together. But then once it came to the beliefs around how we approach things, it was a big thing. And that matters because I do dog training. And so the dog training world is very divided in terms of what we believe is ethical. And so there's just deal breakers for me. Like, I'm just not going to do certain things, and no, like I'm not judging people in terms of thinking that they're bad people, but it's just we have different beliefs, and I can't work in those environments. And so it was kind of like this bummer, because we had this like connection in this way. We were communicating, getting along really well. And then that happened. And I think that dating, those things happen too, right? Where it's like you really like somebody and maybe you have a lot in common with them. But then once it starts to get into the things that matter, you're kind of like on paper, this isn't going to work out, even though I feel the chemistry with this person. So, and that's so common for so many of my friends who are dating, where it's like they'll, have a sexual relationship with someone for a long time because that chemistry is there, but everything else is kind of a mess, and so it's up to you, obviously, on how you want to approach those things. But I think Venus and Pisces passing through the seventh house, we can get caught up in those feelings and the romantic feelings, and we can avoid maybe what's on paper, what really is not going to work for us. And, I've watched people with a lot of Piscean placements do that, for years in their relationships. So that's something to just kind of be mindful of while you're under this influence. March 19th, we enter Aries season. And so it's going to be the spring equinox, and that sun is going to enter that area of the chart that has to do with the eighth house themes again. So the sun's going to be highlighting again shared resources, marriage, sex, death, and rebirth. All those themes get highlighted, and the sun helps bring energy to that area. So we're going to have, Mercury in Aries here, the sun in Aries here. And, there's potential for challenges, but there's definitely potential for things to be uncovered and worked out, and for things to kind of start moving forward in this area too. So that's positive for Virgo, especially if things have been stagnant here. The other thing that we have going on is on March 23rd, we're going to have Mars joining the Pisces party. So here's where things start to get a little bit rocky in the relationship sector again. Mars, when it enters relationship houses, does tend to bring some conflict and challenges. So let's say you're in this Venus and Pisces, like feeling it, and kind of overlooking some of the red flags maybe, or some of the things that I've been talking about. Mars comes in and is like, hey, here I am, the red flag. Let's get emotional and talk about it. And let's have some confrontational situations present themselves so we can no longer pretend that that's not happening. And then we have Venus and Mars doing that dance through that house where, we want to make something work, but we're going to have to face maybe some of the challenges through that as well. So those are some themes. On March 25th, we have our lunar eclipse at 5 degrees of Libra. And this is hitting the area of the chart that has to do with finances for you. So South Node in Libra hitting the financial area, and then the North Node where the sun will be this is hitting that eighth house again. So, eclipses are considered to be portals. Whatever they're opening up, we're going to feel the effects of for the, next 6 months. And it's said not to do any crazy manifestation work during this time. I say follow your heart with that. I do whatever you feel like you need to do for yourself. But full moons are a time of releasing and manifesting things. And so your financial situation is going to be impacted by this eclipse. That's why it's a really good thing that you, like, since there's so much energy influencing the eighth house for you, it's really good that you spend March getting your ducks in a row financially as best you can, because whatever this eclipse is opening up for you is an opportunity for more growth. And by growth, I don't necessarily mean like your money's growing. I just mean you're learning things through your assets, your money, and also the way that you share those things with, like, if you're in a partnership, whether you're married or dating, how you guys negotiate or discuss shared resources. And shared resources, is financial, but it can also be how you guys discuss paying the bills, or, I know, like, if there's somebody making more money or less money, like, how do you guys negotiate that? Those themes. If you're looking into financial advisement, those themes. If you're single, the shared resources aspect can play into kind of like finances around business endeavors, also around taxes, loans, all of that kind of stuff. So if you're in a position where you need to start getting ahead of things with your taxes and all of that kind of stuff, that's really important right now, because the eclipse is basically going to bring all of that to the surface and open all of that up for you. And that's just part of what you're here to do and learn at the beginning of spring, is how to manage that stuff more efficiently. This is also an area that is highlighted by death and self-worth, and like the moon is going to be in the area that has to do with self-worth, and the sun's going to be in the area that has to do with death. We can look at death literally, because sometimes, when these transits are happening, there is a literal death that's happening that we're having to work through, how that's impacting us on a spiritual level and a physical level, if it's somebody that we were associated with in life, like a family member or a close friend. But then there's also the death of the self, the death of the ego, the rebirth of self in some way. And the second house where the moon is going to be is the area that has to do with our relationship to material stability and what we feel like we're worthy of, and our self-worth in that way. So if you feel like there's a death of the self, and then a journey of kind of finding out what your relationship to self is around self-worth, that's a big theme for this eclipse too. And power dynamics around money and shared resources is also a big theme for the Virgo horoscope. So your relationship to that gets highlighted. All right, I think I'm going to leave you there. I am offering astrology and tarot readings one-on-one, again, through Zoom. If you would like to book a personal reading with me and see how these transits are going to be influencing you over the next month, you can email me at analisa6@ladyofleisure.com to book. I charge $100 for a 60 to 90-minute astrology consultation, and I have cheaper rates for tarot. All right, Virgo, I wish you guys the best of luck, and I will see you all next month.